Now to Capitol Hill, where a sensitive high-stakes briefing is happening this morning. The admiral, who ordered a second strike on an alleged drug boat in September after two people survived the first attack, is now walking key lawmakers through that controversial decision. And you see him arriving there. That's Admiral Bradley. As that plays out, at any minute, we could also get the Pentagon watchdog report on another controversy from Pete Hegseth's tenure as Secretary of Defense regarding him accidentally texting sensitive attack plans to a journalist earlier this year. MS Now White House reporter Laura Barone-Lopez is joining us, along with our congressional reporter Michael Schnell, who's staking out that meeting there on the Hill. And also with us, retired Air Force Major General Stephen Lepper, former Deputy Legal Counsel to the Joint Chiefs Chair. Michael, how are we expecting this to play out today? How long could they be in there?
Yeah, Anna, it could be a long day today for Admiral Frank Bradley and Joint Chiefs of Staff Chairman Dan Kane. Those are the two officials who are briefing these top Republicans and Democrats on that September 2nd strike. Now, those two officials, Admiral Bradley and Chairman Kane, they just left a meeting with Congressman Jim Himes. He is the top Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee. He is somebody who wanted to learn more information about what took place during those strikes. And we actually just heard, our colleague and our team heard from Congressman Himes. And I want to read to you some of what he said, what he heard in that briefing. And this is a direct quote. He said that he has respect for Admiral Bradley. He knows he has a storied career. He noted that Admiral Bradley walked him through and defended his conduct with those strikes. But Himes added, quote, "What I saw in that room was one of the most troubling things I've seen in my time in public service." Congressman Himes continued saying, quote, "You have two individuals in clear distress without any means of locomotion with a destroyed vessel who were killed by the United States." Again, that is from Congressman Jim Himes. He is the top Democrat on the House Intelligence Committee. He just met within the last few minutes with Admiral Bradley and Chairman Kane. So a very direct interpretation of what he heard in that room right now. As we speak, Chairman Kane and Admiral Bradley are right now meeting with some other top officials up here on Capitol Hill, including Senator Roger Wicker. He's the top Republican on the Senate Armed Services Committee. He is the chairman of that panel. And later this afternoon, he's going to also be meeting with other intelligence officials, including Senator Mark Warner, who is the top Democrat on the Senate Intelligence Committee. So again, a lot of meetings today to walk through these lawmakers, what exactly happened during that September strike, because as we've been talking about for days now, there are some real fierce concerns about that conduct.
Laura, it's one thing to hear the details coming from these military leaders. It's another to see exactly what happened. And just ahead of these meetings, President Trump did say he would be willing to release the full video of the attack. When could that happen? What else is the White House saying?
Well, we don't really have answers yet, Anna, on when that could happen. But you're right. The president yesterday was asked, why not release this full video? And here's what he had to say about that.
You released video of that first boat strike on September 2nd, but not the second video. Will you release video of that strike so that the American people can see for themselves what happened?
I don't know what they have, but whatever they have, we'd certainly release. No problem.
So the president there saying, no problem, he's okay with releasing this. I asked the White House this morning if this full video that shows the second strike and any audio that they have was going to be released and what kind of time frame there would be for that. And they didn't answer on that. But this is definitely something that lawmakers really want. Not just Democrats, but also Republicans have expressed a request of the administration to release as much information as they have, at least to them, about this strike and the double tap, Anna.
General, the Wall Street Journal reports that Admiral Bradley is planning to tell lawmakers today the two survivors of that initial strike were seen still aboard the damaged vessel alongside packages of illegal narcotics, and that Bradley and his legal advisor concluded the two survivors were attempting to continue their drug run, making them and the already damaged vessel legitimate targets for another attack. That's according to two defense officials. And the New York Times is also reporting this morning one of those survivors reportedly radioed for help. General, do these new details change the legal calculus? Was a second strike justified?
Well, facts matter, and that's why we're pleased that the Congress is going to investigate this. But assuming that this is a lawful armed conflict in the first place, which is something that most legal experts dispute, having a radio doesn't in and of itself deprive shipwrecked persons of their protection from attack. Even if the radio could summon friendly forces, which I understand has been alleged here, they're still shipwrecked unless they engage in a hostile act. We need to be really careful about arguments like this because they have the potential implications for U.S. forces. For example, downed U.S. airmen are equipped with survival kits that include life rafts and radios. Those radios are expressly intended to call for rescue by friendly forces. International law also considers downed airmen shipwrecked and deserving of protection and rescue. Under those circumstances, would we agree that having radios makes them lawful targets? I don't think so.
Well, the other thing that strikes me here, General, is that if this is what happened, why hasn't the administration said that from the beginning? Why does the story keep changing?
Well, that's a good question. And that's why I and my colleagues, since the Washington Post first broke the story, have called for Congress to investigate this case. The facts are coming out slowly. And we all need to recognize that facts matter. And there's a lot of discretion that the commander on the scene of an operation like this has. Once we understand all the facts, we'll have a better understanding of how the commander in this particular case, Admiral Bradley, used those facts to exercise his own judgment.
Michael had told us about what we heard from Congressman Himes, and now we have that sound. I want to play it for our viewers to hear.
Yes, they were carrying drugs. They were not in the position to continue their mission in any way. People will someday see this video and they will see that that video shows, if you don't have the broader context, an attack on shipwrecked sailors.
Who ordered that?
The last thing I'm going to say is that the Admiral confirmed that there had not been a kill them all order, and that there was not an order to grant no quarter.
General, what stands out there?
Well, what stands out there is that there are apparently a lot more facts here than either the Washington Post or any other media outlet has reported up to.
So, Joe, that's why this is so powerful now. Senator Roger Wicker and Senator Jack Reed, two of the most respected members of Congress who really understand military issues, began asking in their letter of October, what happened in September? We want to see the videos now. This was almost 2 months ago they began pressing this because they knew something was wrong here. They knew that the justifications being given for these military actions didn't add up. And so that now we have momentum. You know, they kept pressing, and now you begin to see what the fundamental problems with this strategy were, where it's not a war, it's an armed conflict, it's not law enforcement, it's an armed conflict, they're terrorists, a series of legal rationales. It's now going to all have to come before these congressional committees, and I think in that sense, this whole story is getting back a little more on track. We'll get answers finally, and not more confusion.
And now Senator Wicker, the chairman of Armed Services, has said, Pete Hegseth, you need to come testify before us about this. So, excuse me, David Rode, stupid rules of engagement is something that Pete Hegseth, the secretary, said in that speech several weeks back. That may come back to haunt him here. He's taken great pains in the last couple of days to say this was Admiral Bradley's decision. I support it, but this was Admiral Bradley's decision. So I guess the question is this decorated admiral going to go in a closed-door meeting of Congress and actually try to make the case that, yes, those two people clinging to the boat that was flaming and smoking represented a threat?
He may, and I was on Capitol Hill yesterday. It's what you were talking about. Senate Republicans are shifting. And one specific point was made to me is that the entire policy towards Venezuela and the drugs makes no sense.
What you're seeing here is Donald Trump getting absolutely slammed and blindsided by the House and by the Senate as they make moves against him. And as you see Republicans on committee actually doing their job. Now, who knows if they're ultimately going to follow through when it really gets down to the brass tacks, but they are making legislative and investigative moves to hold some of Trump's actions to account. We saw it with the Epstein stuff, where the House and Senate overwhelmingly, only one Republican in the House and nobody in the Senate, they went against the wishes of Trump and Mike Johnson to pass a resolution, effectively a legislation, saying we want the president to release these documents, right? And it was basically unanimous, effectively unanimous, veto proof as well, because more than 2/3 of each of the houses. And now you're seeing it. And there was one of the Republicans who chairs a committee went on the news and said, I'm getting frustrated with Hegseth, and I'm getting frustrated with the administration because they're trying to railroad us, and we have legitimate questions. And yes, we're Republicans, but we have a job to do in investigations, and you're railroading us, and you're making our job impossible. And remember, the president is more powerful than any one senator or any one member of the House, of course. But the presidency, the executive branch, is no more powerful than the legislative branches. The whole point is they are separate, but equal. And with that equality comes some reality that the president must accept the investigative powers and legislative powers of the House and the Senate. And he's not doing that right now. And he's being forced to do that, overwhelmingly forced to do that by, yes, Democrats that led the charge, and now Republicans who, even if only to save their own sorry behinds in 2026, they're falling, as well.